What is up, everybody? Happy Friday, September 6th, 2024. This is Optimus Fantasy. I am Nate Polvogt. I am here with my co-host, Mike Reedy, and we're here to give you our takes on the main slate for week 1 of DFS. Mike, we made it. We got to the NFL season. We had a game last night. It didn't quite go how I think a lot of us thought it was going to go. Maybe thought it was going to be a little bit closer, a little bit more high scoring, and a little bit more Mark Andrews.
Two great defenses, though, as well. People are underestimating that. Both teams have really good defenses. They forced, I would say, some things people didn't expect to see happen on either team happen to keep them in the game, right? I loved it. It was exciting. I think a lot of people were exciting about getting some takes, right? Maybe overly excited. A lot of victory laps on the internet. But I thought it was a great, exciting game. Great way to kick off the season, right? And hopefully we'll get to see them play each other in an AFC Championship game. That's how I looked at that.
And the way I look at it, too, is we haven't had football since February, meaningful football since February. I was just excited to have anything to watch and to have that game end the way that it ended with that beautiful catch in the back of the end zone. One thing I want to make really clear, though, for anybody who's watching, listening into the podcast, the audio-only version of this show, Isaiah Likely had a great game, as did Xavier Worthy. But, guys, this is a one-week sample of what these guys are going to do in these offenses. Mark Andrews needed to block last night. To your point where Kansas City has a very good defense, they needed him to line up and block. They ran a lot of 12 personnel. Yeah. Benefited Likely, 12 targets, 9 catches, 111 yards. Big game from him. And then to Xavier Worthy, 2 catches, 3 targets. The guy gets 2 touchdowns. He gets 1 rush.
3 touches. Only 3 touches.
3 touches. 3 touches, 2 touchdowns. That is high efficiency, but there will be regression to the mean on that. So be excited, right? This guy's going to be electric in the NFL, but also no Hollywood Brown this week as well. So there was more room for him in this offense.
I called him Cheetah 2.0 this morning. He's really fast. He looks great. But, Hollywood Brown is also a very fast guy. The ball's going to get spread around here some. If he would need to stay this hyper efficient to give you this kind of production every single week, and that's just unlikely, right? Like it's
unrealistic.
Yeah, it's just not
great
there.
Flex play. And I think as we get farther into the season, I foresee Hollywood Brown getting injured at some point and missing 3, 4, 5 more games in addition to what he's already going to miss here at the front of the season. So maybe there is more of a role for Worthy, but we're going to need a few more weeks to see. So don't get too hyped on these guys after 1 week. And don't get too down on these guys after 1 week either. We're good, guys. Mark Andrews is going to be fine, okay? He got me 3.7 points in my home league. That was a kick to my nuts because this is against like family and stuff, right? But I'm not panicking. It's going to be fine.
It's going to be
fine. It's going to be fine.
It is because it'll balance itself out. A lot of people victory lapping the first game of the season. In reality, and I in my Moneymakers and Highbreakers article, I kind of wrote about this. I hate writing for the first week of the season because we don't really know who's what yet. But after we get through 3 or 4 games, then we really know who is what, right? And what's going to happen, what coaches want to do, which players are actually really involved in offenses and aren't just like, a 1-week wonder, and what defenses are stopping and are unable to stop. And I'll talk about what they were unable to stop last season as we go through players today, by the way, as well for DFS.
Yes. Which, on that note, Mike, let's get to what we're here for. We're going to give you guys some picks here for the main slate. We have a high, mid, and low price player at each position. This week, I've got you covered on running backs and tight ends. Mr. Reedy here has you covered on quarterbacks and wide receivers and defense special teams. That's something you're always going to want to, or not always want to, but you're always going to have to play in these contests. So, Mike, let's get to it. Let's start with your quarterbacks here. I'll just pop them off real quick. Our high price is Josh Allen. Our mid price is Tua Tagovailoa. And our low price is Baker Mayfield. Let's start with why you are rolling out Josh Allen this weekend against the Bengals.
Okay. He's against Cardinals. And that's why.
That's what I said.
He lost his top 2 wide receivers, yet he still went first in an awful lot of fantasy drafts as the first quarterback off the board in season long. And it's because we know he can get it done with his arms and his legs. I mean, Gabe Davis was boom or bust. He wasn't a very consistent playmaker, and Diggs seemed to be falling out of favor the last 2 seasons in Buffalo. So people making a big deal about that, but probably a bigger deal than they should. Kincaid's still there.
Sure.
Burr is there. I like Curtis Samuel as well. The real questions I think we're gonna have on the Bills offense is not whether or not Josh Allen can produce, because especially this week. Last season, the Cardinals were bottom 5 against the pass. They didn't really
And
do
not
much
much has
to
changed.
get any better. Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So he's going to produce. I think he's going to throw a couple of touchdowns. He may even run one in. The real question with Josh Allen is who's going to be catching them, right? Like Dalton Kincaid,
Yep.
Khalil Shakur, maybe. We'll see. We're going to find
Maybe.
out. Yeah, I like
Keon
James Cook a lot
Coleman.
this week too. So
Yes,
yeah,
same.
Keon Coleman. So we'll see how it pans out with the passing tree there, right? Which branches start
Yeah.
getting used. And I think you saw caution with that in fantasy drafts as well. But Allen's going to produce no matter what. He just seems to all the time. I went all the way up, as I like to say, 8,000 on DraftKings. Josh Allen.
One of the things I always say when I am playing DFS, whenever I'm giving advice on DFS and setting lineups, is sometimes there are guys that you just have to pay up for. Don't get cute. And quarterback's one of the positions where I don't think you can get cute. There are times when you can. There are guys that you can get cute with depending on your builds and how you want to structure your lineups and your rosters. But Josh Allen is a guy who is going to produce, right? He's going to be a top 2 to 3 quarterback almost every week. Now, your mid, we're going to Tua Tagovailoa. He is $7,000 on DraftKings, Mike. They are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like this. A lot of people really sleeping on Tua in fantasy this season. He's getting a lot of hate, but look at the weapons he has.
What's the knock on him? You know the biggest knock on Tua? He's bad against good defenses. Well, guess what? In week 1, he's not playing a good defense against the pass. He's playing the Jaguars.
Exactly.
Right? They were bad last season. Again, they didn't do much to improve upon that. They gave up the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks last season, and they didn't do much to improve on that. Meanwhile, the Miami offense is, if you think we had fast players last night for the Chiefs, we've got a bunch more fast players coming up in this Miami offense, and Tua gets to toss the ball or hand the ball off to all of them. I like him a lot this week. We've talked about this before. It's going to be a super fun team to watch this season if you like offense. Yeah. If you have pieces of this fantasy lineup, these players in your lineup, you're probably going to like that as well here and there. But there's so many of them. There's a lot of mouths to feed, which means usually you want the quarterback because he's the one who distributes the ball. This week, expect a great game by Tua. It's going to be fun. Tua Tagovailoa. Unless you're a Jaguars fan, it probably won't be that much fun to watch him play. 7,000 on DraftKings.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a good price. You're getting a little bit below that 8,000, so you're freeing up another $1,000. You could stack with Waddle. He's fairly inexpensive-ish. That's not a terrible stack. I would stay away from that backfield, but Tua does. He presents a nice opportunity to be able to stack, and I like that value. Now, your low-priced one, I love this one, and I love this player. Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay this weekend is up against the Washington Commanders at home, 5.6K. Mike, let's talk about Baker Mayfield.
Okay. Baker's going to get it cooking in week 1, right? For sure. That's what's going to happen. The Commanders also did not get really any better on defense, slightly better on offense, but they gave up they gave up the most points to fantasy quarterbacks last year on the season. I think you're looking at 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's what was averaged against them, slightly under 280 last season. Is an easy game for Baker to get this week for 5,600 on DraftKings. You have to love the weapons Baker Mayfield has: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Godwin's back in the slot, probably really good for him. He's nicely priced. When we're going low here, I wouldn't call this one getting cute, maybe being a little daring, but Baker's in a really, really good spot week 1 to produce. I'm playing him in multiple spots myself. So.
Yeah, and they added Trey Benson, so we're going to get to see Trey Benson at some point. I'm sorry, Bucky Irving. We're going to get to see Bucky Irving at some point. Rashad White was great last year, especially in the receiving game. And I think we see more of that. This is a team that throws the ball well. They know their identity, and I think they're going to keep that up. So I love Baker Mayfield here.
Both of those backs can catch the ball too. And Bucky's really fast. This offense is going to be better than people think. I was kind of wondering why so many people aren't hopping on this at all.
Well, I think it's a bias. You look at Mayfield's career leading up to last season, and he just wasn't great. I mean, there was so much talk last year about fading Evans and Godwin because Baker Mayfield can't support a wide receiver 1. He did it once, and it was I can't even think of the guy's name, Jarvis Landry, right? One time in Cleveland he did. But also, if you look at those teams and those offenses, those were bad teams. They were poorly coached. The personnel was crap. There was really he didn't have any continuity and he really doesn't again because Canales is gone, but he's going to be running the same system 2 years in a row for the first time in his career. There's something to that. And he was so
different. Yeah.
It makes a massive difference. Now we're going to move on to running backs, and this is my jam, Mike. So my high price guy, you already mentioned him, got James Cook. He's 6.9K on DraftKings, $6,900. I'm not somebody who's going to be high on James Cook at value for a lot of the season, but this week I can't pass him up. He has RB1 written all over him. Arizona was terrible against running backs last year. I believe they were the worst team in the league fantasy-wise against the position. Let's look here. They gave up an average of 25.7 half PPR points to running backs last season. That's something. And I think James Cook gets 20 of those points. This isn't a big Ray Davis week as much as I want it to be.
And he'll probably get some catches to make that happen as well. They give up passes, and I think it was 32 yards as well, receiving a running backs week. I can see him getting 4 catches and 32 yards on top of running. He's great between the 20s, man. So it's
exactly.
There'll be production.
As much as I love Ray Davis, I need to see it before I start spending money on him or starting him, rostering him. Now, my mid pick, this is a name we all know, guys. It's Deontay Foreman. He's now with the Browns, $4,900 on DraftKings. They're up against the Dallas Cowboys. This is less to do about the matchup and more to do about what I think this offense is going to be, Mike. And we've talked about this the last couple of weeks. I don't trust Deshaun Watson. He's been hurt all preseason.
Yeah.
Right? He's been hurt all preseason. It sounds like they're going to roll him out week 1, which I think is crazy to do, but they're going to do it. And what that tells me is they're going to run the ball a lot. So Jerome Ford is kind of a smash start in fantasy, but in DFS, I like Deontay Foreman's price better, and he could be the guy who ends up edging out Jerome Ford and getting 100+ yards on the ground and a touchdown or 2. So I'm rolling with Foreman at 4.9K.
I like that. I think it's an expensive price point, and I think the Browns were built to run. I mean, obviously, right, with Nick Chubb. So we've seen Foreman produce before in fantasy for us. It's if he gets opportunities, he just gets it done, right? So if he can get a 60-40 split, that's going to turn into a great play.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel like we could be looking at a 50-50. I know everybody's in love with Jerome Ford because he's at the top of the depth chart, but I don't see why it couldn't be a 50-50 split. So now another guy
so low. That's why they love him.
I know. Yeah. That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. All right. Now, Jaleel McLaughlin, Denver Broncos. He is my low price pick, 4.3K, 4,300 on DraftKings. We've talked about this guy too in this Denver backfield. This is a committee field. Even though you can love Javonte Williams, and I do, but Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be just as big of a part of this offense, especially this week against a Seattle defense that has historically not been good against the run. They didn't really change anything to get better against the run this season. They can't stop the pass. Yes. So I like the matchup. It's Bo Nix's first game. Sean Payton's not a dummy. This is going to be a short passing and running game for the Broncos. That's how they're going to try and win this game. I don't know if they can do it against Seattle. We'll see. McLaughlin's going to get 50% of the work.
I love the play because I wrote about Javonte as well because the matchup's so perfect. And as we've talked about before, and we should say it here, pass catching running backs and Sean Payton offenses tend to do well. They just tend to do well, and that's his job. So he'll produce. In redraft, he's somebody I targeted late round all over the place as well because I play a lot of PPR. I like that call. That's a good call, and the price point's so low that allows you to pay up other players.
It is. And I'm just going to say this. You brought up Javonte Williams. He's a pretty solid play this week, too. He's 5,500 on DraftKings right now. And they're going, like you said, second worst rush defense last season. So maybe they got better, but I don't think they did. I really don't.
We'll find out. I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah. All right, let's get over to the wide receivers now. We're rolling, so let's keep it going. You're keeping your streak of going to the top here, Mike, and I love it. Receivers, your high-priced wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, 8,400 on DraftKings. You're not nervous about Sam Darnold, I see.
No, we've talked about that before too. So the Giants last season were the 5th worst team against wide receivers. Gave 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers weekly. Okay, wide receivers averaged 14 receptions and 171 yards against them. Jefferson has 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's quarterback proof. You do understand, right? He got 1,000 yards in only 10 games last year, too, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about massive target share and air yard share. This guy has 27% of the target share, 40% of the air yard share. The volume's going to be there, and it's going to be there on big plays as well as just passes in general. It's overthinking this to sit him. How do you spell Jefferson? Jeffer, son. We want Jefferson.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah. This is a no-brainer to me. Like, okay, I'm going to go back to what we keep talking about. Like, okay, it's week 1. We don't know what we're going to get from a lot of teams. You know what we do know, Mike? We know exactly what this Minnesota offense is going to do. They are going to throw and throw and throw and throw some more. Last season, they ran the ball 7 times week 1. 7 times. We know what they're going to do.
The passing tree is small, right? They pass the ball to like 2 or 3 players, and that's it. And Hawkinson's out. So they're really, the passing tree has 2 main branches on it right now, and Jefferson is the big one. He could be looking at an easy 40% of the passing volume this week just because of what they have.
Easy.
And the guy turns that into like 150, 200 yards. So even if there's no touchdowns, if you're going to pay down in places with like Jaleel McLaughlin, that can allow you to pay up with Justin Jefferson. And I'm for that, right? I'm for that. I think he's a pretty safe play, really high floor.
And you can stack him with Sam Darnold. Darnold's 5,200. That's not a bad stack.
Speaking of sacks, right? I especially if you're playing cash.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes, and Mike Evans, your mid pick to stack with Baker Mayfield, your low quarterback pick. Mike Evans in 7,300 on DraftKings. All this guy does is produce 1,000-yard seasons. It's week 1. It's a great matchup. This is a great stack. I love it.
10 1,000-yard seasons. Every single season he does it. He's had a slew of different quarterbacks, by the way, right, that he's done this with. He had 79 receptions on 136 targets last year for 1,255 yards and 13 touchdowns. He's not slowing down this season. I know he's not young. I know it's not sexy, right, to pick him, but it's super, super solid. Right. 24% target share last year, 40% of the air yards. Another just target volume monster type of guy. We love people like that in fantasy. The Commanders, as we mentioned, aren't good against the pass. right? They were the second worst against wide receivers last year, second most fantasy points. So stack these Buccaneers, 7,300 on DraftKings. I love Mike Evans this week. Like him a lot. I'm not afraid of throwing Chris Godwin in there as well, by the way. And having a little double stack with Baker, Evans, and Godwin. I think it's worth it for week one, and it's a good play.
Yep. No, I agree. It's an inexpensive stack, let you spend up other places in your lineup. Now, your low pick, Malik Neighbors of the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, $5,900 on DraftKings. Tell me, Mike, let's talk about this one.
All right. The Giants needed someone to be a playmaker, right? That was very obvious last year. I think they led the league with slot receivers on their roster last year, and yet didn't seem to do well in the slot. So they draft this kid who's amazing. He averaged 12 yards per target in his last season at LSU. You can line him up anywhere. He's explosive. He's dynamic. And he gets day ball for a coach who's going to do things like Andy Reid did last night. Try to put him in space somewhere. Try to make some things happen. I think you're going to see that because they desperately needed it. So, all I could say here is, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
I love it.
5,900 on DraftKings. The price is so low too for the guy who's probably going to get low volume. Yeah.
Now, would you stack him with Daniel Jones?
No, I don't trust Daniel Jones all that much. But Danny Dimes has produced in fantasy before, and in all honesty, I wouldn't stack him this week.
5,400. No, probably
Depends
not.
on where you want to pay up, right? So that's
Minnesota's defense isn't good.
No.
If Dimes is going to have a good week, this could be it. I don't know. What do I know? What do I know? I know tight ends. That's what I know. So we're going to go ahead and go over to tight ends here. So my high price tight end, I'm going off of chalk here. Like I'm going Evan Ingram, 5,500 on DraftKings. I feel like he is going to get a lot of volume all season long in this offense. And this is a much better situation than he was in New York. Evan Ingram was freaking good last year, and I loved it. I loved watching him go off. I think that just continues in this offense. It's not necessarily, this isn't necessarily a matchup call, though Miami's defense isn't great, which they should be better with Vic Fangio, but they're just not. I think it's more of a person.
They were actually bad against tight ends last year, bottom 5.
Yep. So I like Evan Ingram this week.
And the volume.
I like Evan Ingram. And that's what I'm saying. It's just like all around Evan Ingram all season long in DFS and fantasy. He's a guy that I want to play. We're going to switch to the mid guy. Didn't think I'd have someone like this on this list, Mike, but it's Zach Ertz. The Washington Commanders, 3.6K. That's $3,600 on DraftKings. Is he going to be relevant all season? Absolutely not. Ben Sinnott will at some point overtake that role as the tight end one. But for now, this offense needs a guy like Zach Ertz. You've got Jaden Daniels, the rookie. Then you've got Terry McLaurin. And then you've got Luke McCaffrey. You've got Diami Brown. It's not that exciting. But Zach Ertz is a vet, right? You get him those like short to intermediate routes. It's kind of a savior for Daniels who can move and get outside of the pocket. I think he maybe plays chase to Daniels a little bit this season early on. And for $3,600, okay.
I think that's a great pick. The team they're playing isn't great against tight ends. You have a rookie quarterback. Tight end's usually their best friend. The stars are aligning for Zach Ertz to have a good week one. That's what's really happening here. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice, but it's mitigated risk because the stars are aligning for him to have a good week here.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, he's not a guy I'm going to play all season, but the stars are aligning for Ertz this week. And another guy the stars are aligning for, and I don't know that I'm going to be on very often this season, but Mike Gesicki now with the Cincinnati Bengals, he's going for 3,000 even on DraftKings. Mike, I am a longtime, well-known Mike Gesicki stan. I just think the guy needs the right situation to produce for fantasy. He had that one season in Miami where he was just a big slot receiver, and that's what he always says. I'm just a big slot receiver, guys. I thought he was going to be more of a thing in New England last year. I was excited about them. They had Bill O'Brien back. He engineered the Hernandez, Gronk season. I thought, why not do it with Henry and Gesicki? It was a perfect storm. It didn't happen, but now you've got him on a team where Tyler Boyd's gone. Obviously, Andre Iosivas. We love Andre Iosivas. Jamar Chase back with the team. I don't know that he plays, and if he does play this week, I feel like it's going to be fairly limited, as he won't even have a full week of practice under his belt. I think Gesicki could step into some volume, and at tight end, that's all you're really looking for is the opportunity to get some volume.
There should be some volume because they don't. Burton is the guy that they, all these people like, he had this great preseason. Yeah, he did. But you're not listening to what the quarterback and other people in the organization are saying. They're saying he's immature. He's not ready. He's not where he belongs on the field.
Right.
Like in real games that matter, he may or may not factor. Right. Like he's a talented kid. He's fast, man, too. And but
sure.
I think you're going to see especially if Jamar was out, right? If Chase was out, you'll see a lot of Iosivas and you'll see more Gesicki. Gesicki will, even though he's a tight end, would probably be lining up more as a wide receiver like he did in Miami.
Yeah.
That's how I see him getting used. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's tight end. You miss out on those top 3 or 4 guys. You don't want to pay up for them. I mean, you get what you get with some of these guys. You're looking for any points you can get. And I think Gesicki could have a big week. So now the one that we don't talk about often, but we get to talk about today, and I love this, Mike, the defense special teams. This is a thing here on DraftKings, guys. When you're playing main slate, you got to pick one.
So evidently, DraftKings and FanDuel kind of feel the same way about the Patriots offense that I do, that it's not good. And the Bengals are priced relatively high. I don't have a really cheap one this week. They're all price pointed around the same. But the Patriots weren't good last year on offense. And in all honesty, if Brissett's starting, they're not going to be that good or scary on offense this year either right now. Their offensive line is in shambles. So the Bengals at 3,800, if you want to pay up that far, it's not all the way up, but it's kind of high. They're not a bad pick because the Patriots allowed defenses to score a lot of fantasy points last season, and there will be sacks and there will be turnovers again this season with the Patriots. It's going to happen. As a Patriots fan, I'm very sad about that. But I know it's going to happen, right? So it is what it is.
Yeah. And I like that call because there's nothing exciting about Jacoby Brissett. He's fine, but he's whatever. He's vanilla.
He's keeping the spot warm, and he knows it. That's what he's there to do.
Yeah, until Drake May's ready.
Yeah.
That has been his job in the NFL from the time he got into the league. Now
it's paid a lot to do it. He's not complaining.
Look, I would trade places with Chase Daniel. I would take that, man. I would take that backup money to what? You took 3 snaps his whole career or something like that. Now you're mid pick. The Vikings up against the Giants. This one makes a lot of sense because, well, I mean, we just finished talking about how inept this Giants offense might be this year.
Yeah. Neighbors is the only guy I'm looking at right now. I mean, I think the running backs might produce as the season goes on.
No Devin Singletary?
I that's what I mean. I think the running backs might produce as the season wears on because there's going to be volume there for them, right? But defense has scored the second most fantasy points against the Giants last season. They're not that good. They didn't get that much better. They're not shambles, at least, as they were, so they're a little better. And the Vikings defense, it's not great, but you get points by default when you're playing really bad offenses and they give the ball away. So 3,600 on DraftKings, if you wanted to pay that, this is an offense that's going to cough the ball up here and there. It's at least I expect them to. They're just not that talented all the way around, right? They're just okay.
Yeah.
Much more talented than me, but that doesn't mean they're good at the NFL level.
But I mean, whatever. I'm not supposed to be back in coverage, right? Now, the low priced option here, you've got the Bears. The Bears are up against the Tennessee Titans, who we just discussed a little bit earlier here. I hate their offense. I am staying away from every single piece. And I think that the Bears defense is a great pick against Tennessee.
This is the one I'm playing everywhere, by the way. I'll openly admit it. I'm playing the Bears defense everywhere at 3,400 on DraftKings. Are they the cheapest? No. And as the season progresses, by the way, I'll find cheaper and cheaper defenses to play. But if you think the Titans are good on offense, you're crazy. They're not. Is DeAndre Hopkins even playing this week? I don't know if he's playing.
He's questionable. He might play. But if he does play, I'm assuming again he's limited.
All right. Will Levis, is he a good quarterback?
We don't know.
So many questions, right? We don't know. So is there a risk involved? Yeah, there's a little. But to be fair, the wide receiver room is put together with outcasts that nobody else wanted anymore. I don't care what you think of Ridley and Hopkins. You can think they're great all you want. That's good. Better days are in the past for those guys. Tyler Boyd's the third option. Tyler Boyd, he's a good wide receiver. He's not super exciting either. Chig Okonkwo, nobody was excited about him in the preseason. Their running backs generate some excitement, but I mean, that's about it. I don't think Levis is great at passing into the flat. He's more of a deep ball guy. So I think he's going to turn the ball over a lot is what I think he's going to do this week. And the Bears will capitalize.
I'm going to over under on 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
1.5 interceptions.
That's fair. And maybe 4 turnovers in general. Right?
Yeah.
So
I
like
think the Bears are
spot.
Yeah, it's a good cheap play. I'm all for it.
And their offense is good this year, right? Let's face it. The Bears offense is actually going to be good.
It is actually they're going to be on the field more.
Yes. Yep. So this is the kind of play to start your DFS season off with, by the way. Throw in the Bears.
I love it.
And watch them roll.
Love it. Oh, guys, Mike, friends, everyone who is tuned in, everyone who has listened, thank you so much. Just want to point out we've got this comment in the chat from HoofTube. He writes up a weekly betting piece for Optimus Fantasy. You can find it on optimusfantasy.com. He's going to hit 10 games every week and then give little minor bets for all the rest of them. He's doing well so far. He kind of nailed the Thursday night slate, so go check that out. We've got a ton of stuff. We've got an article from Casey Kasem on wide receiver 2s. It's going to be coming out a little bit later this afternoon. Then, of course, Mike, we've got the mailbag show tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Optimus Fantasy. Come back over for that. And then Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, come join us on Reddit. Our Fantasy Football. There are 2.8 million subscribers right now on that channel. We are going to be answering all of their start-sit questions from 11:30 up until 1 p.m. start time for games. Get in there, guys. We're going to answer as many as we can to help you win. And as always, please like this video and subscribe to the Optimus channel. It will help us continue to bring you this content all season long. The more the merrier, guys. We'd love to have you. Make sure you're showing up in the chat as well. Drop those comments in. We'd love to see them, and we'd love to answer your questions. Mike, this is a blast. First DFS show of the season under our belt, man. We did it.
Yeah, I love doing these shows, by the way. DFS is the best.
Yeah, man.
Great show. Fun. Great job, man. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And we'll catch you next week on 2 more shows.
Yeah. Well, for Mike Reedy, I'm Nate Polvogt. I will see you in about 5 hours. But Mike will see you next week on Tuesday. Good luck this weekend. Win some money, win some matchups, crush your brother-in-law's soul like I'm hoping to do in my home league. That's always the most fun, guys. All righty. We will see you on Tuesday, folks.